This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. Dads, what's it like being a father in 2025? Because fatherhood today certainly looks different than it did in years past. Since the pandemic, dads have become more involved with their family life. That's according to research from the University of Kansas. But that doesn't mean navigating fatherhood is easy. Ahead of Father's Day, we're asking dads to share their trials and triumphs of fatherhood. And joining us now are some familiar voices to the Connecticut Public family. Frankie Graziano is the host and producer of The Wheelhouse here at CT Public. Frankie, thanks for being with us today.
Good morning, Kat.
We also have with us John Henry Smith, who is the host of All Things Considered. John Henry, appreciate your time.
As an old man, I appreciate the 80s music lead-in. Very nice, lovely guitar.
Well, here are the vibes, and bringing us more vibes is Eric Austin, who is our executive editor here. Eric, appreciate your time as well.
Hey, thanks so much for the invitation.
So we've got 3 dads with us, and we would love to hear from all of the dads here in Connecticut and beyond. Let us know, what do you love about being a father? Or if you have a funny story about your kids, favorite dad jokes, give us a call, 888-720-9677, or leave us a comment on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. So Frankie, you're the dad of 2 young kids.
Aww.
Tell us a little bit about your own fatherhood journey.
Charlie and Annie, those are my 2 favorite people in the world. I always tell them that. Charlie's 7 years old now. Annie is 5 years old. The interesting part about our journey was that Annie was born in 2019. So Charlie was 1.5. He was about 18 months when she was born. So the first few years of Annie's life were hard for us because we were in the midst of the pandemic. As you can imagine, I think we all went a little crazy during the pandemic. But it also coincided with my son being diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum. So the pandemic was very interesting for us. And you'll hear me say this a lot if we do talk about my son. But children like him are perfect. It's mostly the adults that need to rise to make sure that they take care of their kids, as we all do in fatherhood. But there was a lot of learning at that point, and there was a lot of virtual sessions with Birth to 3 in Connecticut, and a lot of neglecting our poor little Annie. So we've been trying to catch up with that and trying to teach her language to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, to come to grips with that kind of a situation. So I would say my fatherhood journey has definitely been imperfect, and it's been the best part about it for myself selfishly is I've found out a lot about myself, and what that's led me to do is to get better so that I could raise my kids the right way. And help Colleen.
Right. And then with there's
I
so
do
much...
have a wife, yeah.
Who does most of the work, right?
Who does most of the work.
We also are fans of Colleen here, of course, and of Annie and Charlie. So what I mean, because I think you all have expectations. We all have expectations in life. And what are some of those expectations you had maybe before becoming a father? And of course, reality is so different to what you were thinking. And on top of that, you went into it during the pandemic.
The reality was different. I said imperfect journey. I thought I was going to be a perfect dad. I think a lot of people are naive like that. Certainly I am. I thought I was never going to yell at my children. I just thought I would be the best dad. I thought I would teach them everything. I thought I would have time for them. And it's really hard to make time for your kids. It's also really hard to stay engaged because you've got your own things going on and you have to sort of be on all the time. As I mentioned, you know what it's like being on air. You're always on. It's live, but I feel like I'm live 24/7. So I haven't always been able to give them everything, and I thought I would be able to. So it's been imperfect in that regard. But I have to say, and I don't know if the other guys feel this way, and they might poop on it, but I always thought that it was going to be, no matter what, it is kind of easy being a dad because the bar, I thought, is always so low for dads. We're not expected to do much, and that's because of a horrible tradition in the United States and in masculinity, where we always think that the women do most of the work. But we know that nowadays households are not traditional. But I always thought the bar was so low, and all you had to do was show up. So I thought it was going to be easy in that regard, and I've tried to I'll just finish it up this way. I've tried to not make it that way. I've tried to make sure that I've always gone above and beyond so that my wife doesn't feel like it's that situation.
Well, and I think the idea of showing up is so different for everybody. So, John Henry, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Frankie, I don't want you to undersell the idea of showing up. I mean, because
yes, it's important.
I think the Everybody Loves Chris show, the guy said, I knew my dad loved me because he said, I'll see you in the morning, and he always did. And I think unfortunately, there are too many kids in this world who don't know if they're going to see their dad in the morning or if they're going to see their dad at all. So I think it's not to be sold short that, hey, yeah, I'm showing up. I'm here. I'm here every day, rolling up my sleeves, getting down and dirty in the work of parenting. So I will say that. And then, in terms of, I my own journey with fatherhood, I would say that I am not a person who really lives in guilt of any kind. I don't spend. I feel it's a waste of time to feel guilty about things. With that said, I am aware that my beautiful daughter, she has been around the country. We, through my career, I mean, she started out in Miami, and then we went to New Orleans, and then we went to San Francisco, and then we came to New Jersey. She's been all over the place, and it is not lost on me that I grew up in Detroit pretty much, in the same place like my entire childhood. And so I have long-term friends. I have these roots that she, unfortunately, because she's moved around, I mean, she's had to be the new girl in school constantly. She's had to be she's had to make new friends. And I know it's been a struggle for her. And so, whereas I don't feel guilty about that, because I certainly put food in her belly and all that kind of thing, her mother and I mean, we have really worked to try to compensate for that. And for me, you know my personality, of course, right? I can be a little off the wall sometimes. I mean, there are.
No, really?
Yeah, exactly.
You are
I know
the
that.
dad.
I know that it's not news to anyone.
I wasn't going to comment of how Eric laughed at that, but hey,
As his boss, I know.
Eric knows. Eric knows. But because of that, because she's an only child, and because of that, I have sort of fallen into the role of I am sometimes dad. I am sometimes annoying big brother, and and both roles I think have been important for her in her upbringing, and now I love the trajectory she's on. So things are moving.
well, I think off the walls is not just personality; it's also what life can do. So, Eric, in terms of that, what's your own journey like?
Yeah, but let me first preface everything by something that Frankie had said about, and the research that you said about fathers doing more. But there's way more that fathers can do. And fathers are being celebrated for little incremental steps in the right direction, which is good. But we can't talk about fatherhood without addressing motherhood.
Right.
And the important role that mothers still play as the chief caregivers and almost bearing a lot of the burden in terms of the emotional
and the physical one.
Yeah, and all the things that mothers still do and kind of are expected to do, even though we've made so much progress in society. I think about societal standards too. Like in school, we've got a 17-year-old daughter Claire and a 15-year-old son Matthew, who are incredible, and I'll rave about them later. But I think about when they were young in elementary school, and the teachers at school or the nurses at school. If the kids are sick, they're always going to call the mother, even though they have my phone number. Teacher distribution email lists at the beginning of the year. I would always go to those parent meetings at the very beginning of the year, sign my name up along with my wife's name. And some years I would get on that email list, but other years I wouldn't. And so how mothers still play this default role, even though fathers are doing more than ever. But we're celebrating these small things when really there are giant leaps that fathers could still be taking, and society writ large could be taking as well.
Well, then you talk about society. Do you think the way we view fatherhood as a society has changed?
Oh, yeah. I think fathers are... fathers are much more involved in stuff now. There are expectations that fathers will change diapers. I don't know if my dad changed my diapers. Expectations that fathers will show up and be there, not just in athletics or as in the coaching role, which I think a lot of fathers do, but that fathers should be leaning more into what into the family unit. And The question again?
I was just because we were talking about society's view on fatherhood and, of course, on motherhood as well. But it's just from your point of view, having two children in their teenage years, have you seen the way society view fatherhood change as you navigate it?
Yeah, I just think about like what my father did versus what I'm doing and how much more. And I love my parents and they're great and they raised us well. But that that the bar should be higher and there are more expectations. And like I think about my wife we're both journalists and we're still journalists and we were both reporters at the Dallas Morning News when we had our first daughter. And my wife did not want to go back to work. She wanted to extend her maternity leave as long as possible. 5, 6, 7 months. It's like, okay, we're running out of money. She was thinking about going to work part-time at a bookstore. And she had a supportive boss and a supportive employer who came up with a creative solution so that she didn't want our daughter in daycare all day. So instead, they came up with this great idea of she would work at night. She would become an editor because they needed an editor at night. And that way, our Claire would not be in daycare all day, which meant that I had to step up and I had to become the primary caretaker at night. And I don't know if I remember if I was being freaked out. I don't even remember what. I just remember being all in, because that's what you do for each other as partners, as spouses. That's what the vows are about. And even though like decades ago that would have been like very unusual, I think it's becoming a little bit more common now. But because of that, so I would pick up Claire from daycare and then Matthew when they were both daycare age. I would drive them through traffic. We were living in Dallas, Texas at the time, so insane traffic, throwing goldfish in the back of the car as they're able to eat, and then to get them to quiet, down to talk about their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, and then get home and throw in some microwave chicken nuggets and have some dinner time, of course, and watch some TV, usually Sesame Street, and listen to some music and bedtime and bath time. And I did that for several years. And I'm not saying I am a saint or anything, but I'm saying that being intentional about that was the best experience that I could have had as a father. And I think helped me form a deeper bond and with both kids, and certainly a deeper appreciation for what my wife goes through and women in general.
I think you're saying that to set an example for other men, and that's kind of why I brought up the bar being so low.
I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, like I'm not saying it as a bad thing. I think I try to be a equal Superman, kind of like you all do in your lives. But I have always just thought that like we get celebrated for the little things that we do, because so much is not expected of men, because men in the past haven't always pulled their weight, especially in fatherhood. But I don't want to be celebrated at all for what I do. I just want to be a good dad and be a supportive husband, just like Eric has been.
I had no idea what I was getting myself into as a father.
Me either.
Right? There's no guidebook to this. Yeah, you can read up on stuff. You can talk to folks who are dads, but you don't know what you're getting into until you get into it.
Well, I wanted to ask too, I know John Henry, you want to mention something, but just throwing this question out there too, if any of you have role models growing up in terms of basing what you want your own fatherhood journey to be, or what you don't want it to be.
Well, I do. I'm just going to deal with very quickly with the point you guys just made about the changing of the expectations of fatherhood. I think, certainly, my dad's generation, I mean, you could expect a certain lifestyle from one salary. And, nowadays that's not necessarily the case. Nowadays, women, a lot of families need both spouses to get out there in the workplace and make some money and bring it in so you can have your house and your car and tuition
but we love
money
families in this country, so shouldn't they,
exactly.
shouldn't one of the spouses be able to stay home? Shouldn't the economy be so terrific that you'd be able to do that?
He says tongue in cheek, yes. But in that with that sort of change in the dynamic, I think that by certainly guys like us in our generation, we've had to step up. I mean, things need to be done, and I think that probably the time for yes, that's your role, and yes, that's my role. I think that's
out of here.
That's something from a bygone era in these days, and I think all that it's not a bad thing at all. Because certainly I think I probably can speak for both of you. I feel much more connected to my daughter's day to day and knowing her thoughts and knowing her friends and all of that.
Like there's some again. We lived in Texas for several years, then moved to Connecticut. Connecticut. My wife was from Connecticut, so we could be closer to family. But growing up in Dallas with our son, especially my son's friends and their dads, like I would, when you socialize with them and just talk about day-to-day stuff. And, I don't know if dads are always talking about school, but I would always bring up school. And some of these dads could not name their kid's homeroom school teacher, which was shocking to me. Yeah. It's like how out of it are you? I mean, they're loving dads, they're involved in their kids' lives, but the fact that you don't know the nuance of that kind of stuff indicates to me we still have a ways to go.
Well, and I didn't actually realize as an adult, actually my parents are there's no 50-50, but as you are all sort of describing your fatherhood journey, I can see my own dad coming to pick me up at school, and he will drop me off at school. My mom would do the same, but now I'm kind of seeing images of both of them playing a role. Of course, depending on the day, one is more present than the other.
Did he have a nickname for you?
Did he have a nickname for me?
A little goofy nickname.
He calls me Meatball.
Oh, I love that.
But actually, it's Meatball in Taiwanese, so it's got a funnier nuance because it's not even close to. I don't know where it came from.
I will definitely not call you that.
I can't. I might though. I might.
No, but that gave me sort of an idea of what parenthood could look like.
And so I don't have a lot of memories of my dad, like, again, changing my diaper or anything, if I wouldn't have remembered if he did. But what I do remember is as I got older, I was in choir, and he took me to choir practices all the time and to rehearsals. But I think where he really stepped up was the college application process and helping me figure out, okay, which colleges would interest me, which would be best suited my desires and my hopes and my dreams. But then also he helped me build a resume to submit to colleges. And as I've gotten older, he's helped me negotiate job offers behind the scenes. He's like my agent behind the scenes. And so as our daughter is she's going to be a senior, and we're about to take her on college visits, and I'm thinking about that right now and the positive role that my dad played in trying to keep that spirit.
And it's really interesting you say that because I think my father was a great father in many respects, but that's one thing, if there's anything that he was not as great at, it was like taking me through the day-to-day, like telling me how sausage is made, telling me those behind-the-scenes details. And so I think we were always trying to improve on our parents. You asked me about my parental role models. My father, my own father was my role model in that he was extremely hard worker and a very gentle guy. I remember the car alarm went off one morning. And, I'm 16 years old, and I could run down with a baseball bat, and I don't know what I'm going to do with this bat, but, and I had this spit and vinegar that I was going to do something, and I turned around, and my dad says, "Step aside, son." And I looked at him, and he was he was wearing nothing but his underwear with a 38 caliber gun in his hand. And I was like, and he said, "Turn out the lights." And I said, "Okay," I did that. And then I said, "You're not going to go out there?" And I said, No. I said, well, Dad, what'd you bring the got for? I just brought the gun in case you did something dumb.
What a dad moment.
Right, but I mean that's something you never forget. So dad didn't want to hurt anybody. He didn't want to hurt those guys.
Right.
We're messing with the car. He'd call the police. Insurance will take care of it. So in that sense, he was a great example to me. But you always try to improve on what your father did, and I've fallen short of him in some ways. But the one way I've tried to really improve upon him is that I really try to sit down and have very detailed talks about this is the way the world is.
Well, I feel like what you just described is oftentimes what we do as kids, right? When we look at our parents, what we should do, what we should not do, what we can improve on, or what we can refine. Frankie, what about you?
I'm the child of immigrants. My toxic flaw when talking to other foreigners is that, I think that everybody's parents were poor immigrants. My parents were poor immigrants. Example, in southern Italy, when they grew up, pig's blood was a delicacy. They would put pig's blood on things and then let it sit out, and then it would turn into a nice treat. But
yum.
But I've had this reckoning. I think we talked about this before we came on the air, where you start to think about the nuances, right? So my biggest challenge growing up was that, in John Henry's talking about what his father did and didn't do, is I just felt like my parents weren't able to kind of negotiate me through the finer points of what I needed to do when I needed to do it, because first of all, they were working, and second of all, they had 3 other kids, and they just had a lot going on, and they also didn't have that educational background. My dad never went to school. My mother had to leave high school because her father died, and she had to take care of her 8 siblings. So like they had an intense life. So first of all, I shouldn't be blaming them for anything. I just wish I had that ability to, especially during some of the challenges I have during my regular life, especially here in the workplace sometimes. But I just wish I had somebody to kind of say, hey, maybe you should have did this instead of that, or let's try this next time. I didn't have that approach. We were full of fire and oil, like that's how we were. But I had always pictured that everybody's family life was like that, but it's not. And I also need to cut my parents a little more slack because they only brought in $19,000 a year and raised 4 kids at the time. So they did a lot for us.
They did the best they could.
They did a great job too. My dad was always there. He picked me up from every activity. He cooked. He did a lot of things that other dads wouldn't have done in the past.
But I know what you mean. I mean, my dad was a pleasant fellow, but I was thinking with my daughter the other day as we were doing we have this series of stupid games we play that we've been we've been doing like our entire lives together, and it's like I never saw my dad being silly with me. My dad was a good dad, but the relationship that my daughter and I have with our mutual goofiness together. I think that's a lovely thing. And I don't blame Dad. It's just that that's just wasn't where he was at. I
can't name the person, but I recently, this was a year and a half ago, and I won't name this person, but I had been with somebody, and I was with Charlie, and I looked at him, and I was like, "You're the best. You're my best friend." And I was being very silly with him, and the guy goes, that's not your best friend. That's your kid. And he was really just kind of laughing at the fact that he thought that was silly.
Laughing dismissively, I might add.
And thinking that I was probably effeminate for saying that.
How did you respond to that?
I called the person out for it and was like, hey, this is how you talk to your kids. And I'm probably going to have a great relationship with my son as a result. But that's the point. It's like you have to be vulnerable.
Sure.
And we weren't always taught that growing up as men. We were always taught to be tough. Yeah. And that probably ruined a lot of us. But yeah.
I love that you said that, though. I love that you said that because you have to. I think a lot of us grew up with looking at our parents and not looking at them as human beings. They were the providers and they were infallible and such and so forth. And then it maybe been, I don't know about, maybe it was something of a awakening to realize, boy, that is a real human being with real human wants and desires and the whole 9 yards. And I certainly think that my daughter has long seen me as a human being, because I share my thoughts with her. I tell her that I don't tell her don't do it because I say so. I tell her this is why, So I mean that's one thing I've tried to do with my daughter.
Well, I think with so much of that, just based on 3 dads we have here, there's so much complications, different kinds of journeys and backgrounds that people go through as fathers. And ahead of this show, we've asked other dads in our newsroom to share their stories with us, and we're going to hear from reporter and digital editor Patrick Scahill.
What's it like being a dad? Here's a day in about 90 seconds. It's a lazy Sunday. The kids are up around 5:45. It's a good day. They go downstairs and kind of make breakfast all on their own. I'll clean up the old waffles and uneaten Cheerios later, but nothing spills. Success. From there, it's take one kid outside to ride the tricycle, and then not ride the tricycle, and then ride the tricycle, and then let's go inside. But wait, no, actually going inside is pretty much the worst thing ever. Oh, look, it's a pretty bird. That goes on. Eventually, we go inside. 30 minutes later, we pile the kids into the car. It's time to go to a town fair. We drive there. Whoops, we are 2 hours early. My bad, drive home, go eat lunch, and now back to the fair. It's happening now. Cool. We buy tickets for all the rides, but one ride is better than all the others, and we ride it 4 times. It's cool to watch, and I have fun too. It's hot, but we're thirsty, so it's time to go. But wait, no, you said we get ice cream, so we go get ice cream. Then we go. Heading home, we pile into the house. I collapse in a chair somewhere. Go play, kids. And they go play. A few minutes pass by, and I'm told baby, that's a doll the kids have, decided to pee everywhere. Uh-oh, walking into the living room, the ottoman is covered in water. So is the rug, but it's just water. Okay, no biggie. But get a towel, clean it up. No, not that towel. That's a blanket, an actual towel. No, that's a paper one, a bath towel. Yes, good. They clean it up. Then it's dinner, where one child sits and eats, while the other careens around the house with a sword they got at the fair. Stop, eat. No, I'll take it away. I'll take it away. I take it away. They eat, and, well, it's enough. The meal's done, they get back the swords. We watch a little TV, and even though I've watched Encanto about 5 times now, it's still actually pretty good. Then it's time for showers, and honestly, that all goes pretty well. One kid does it all alone and gets pretty much all the shampoo out. I help the little one. It's PJ time and brush teeth and homework. Wait, no, it's a Sunday, and we don't do homework on Sunday. Just ask Mom. I don't ask Mom. We read a story, head upstairs, and it's lights out. An easy day, and one, weirdly, that I wouldn't trade for anything.
Glad that our mics are faded down because everyone is cackling at that. Thank you so much, Patrick, for sharing your story with us, which I'm sure resonates with a lot of us here. With us today is our powerhouse panel of dads here at Connecticut Public. We're talking about navigating fatherhood in 2025, and they'll all be staying with us after the break. And dads, you can join the conversation too. We would love to hear from you. What's the most challenging thing about fatherhood right now? What do you love or not love? Let us know. 888-720-9677 or let us know on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. Father's Day is coming up this weekend. Let us know how you're celebrating the dad in your life. Maybe it's not a biological dad. Maybe it's an uncle, a grandfather, or a work dad. With us today are a trio of dads from Connecticut Public. We've got Frankie Graziano, who's the host and producer of The Wheelhouse, John Henry Smith, host of All Things Considered, and Eric Austin, who's our executive editor. So we're going to jump straight back into the conversation. But before we do that, though, I want to share another quick story from our other colleague, Jonathan McNichol. Today, we're talking about fatherhood journeys, but also the role that social media plays in a part of growing up. So Jonathan McNichol, some of you might know him as Pants. He's a producer for The Colin McEnroe Show, and here's what he shared about his son's love of YouTube.
Yeah. Hi, Simon. Hi, I am Simon.
This is my son.
My last name is McNichol, and then I am 6 years old.
He's just finishing kindergarten this week.
All right, Scooter, what's your favorite thing to do?
Watch TV.
So let me just say that when I was Simon's age, watching TV was probably my favorite thing to do too. But my favorite things to watch on TV were cartoons. Inspector Gadget, He-Man, the Smurfs. And I mean, Simon likes cartoons too, but...
What is your favorite thing to watch on TV?
Probably YouTube.
What's your favorite thing to watch on YouTube?
I don't know if I should decide from Ryan's World or ZX Many.
ZX Many is a YouTuber who does playthroughs of video games, the Super Mario games and things.
Gotta be careful to not fall. They can push you off. That's crazy.
He's got 635,000 subscribers, and good for him. His videos seem to be okay for a little kid, even if he isn't making them specifically for little kids. And then there's the other channel Simon mentioned, Ryan's World.
Ryan is, right now he's 13, and he did this show called Ryan's World since he was 3, so.
When he was 3, Ryan's parents started a channel doing toy reviews. Ryan's World has, let's say, ballooned since then. It has nearly 40 million subscribers. According to their website, the channel generates roughly 1 billion views per month. There are Ryan's World toys and clothes and card games. You can buy this stuff at Walmart. And last summer, there was a Ryan's World movie in theaters.
Whoa! This is so cool! Am I really in a comic book?
Ryan's World actually is made for kids, but watching another little boy basically grow up on the YouTube, on television, is that good for kids?
Ryan's World is like a show that's... like, some of the part is not really real. Like, sometimes they get, teleported into the TV. That's not real. Like, that is not real.
He's right. It is not really real, which we try to remind him of all the time. And yet...
Do you wish you had your own YouTube channel?
Yes. Why can't I make a YouTube channel?
At some point, when he's bigger, it'll be up to Simon whether he makes a YouTube channel or not. But for now, we're going to let him grow up here, in the really real world, with the rest of us.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for sharing your conversation with Simon with us. And we're really glad that Simon's here with us in the very, very real world. But I know all three of you have some opinions about having children or growing or, having their childhood with social media involved. I think, John Henry, maybe you're first up.
Well, it strikes me. I mean, so the young man is watching someone play video games on YouTube. And I think that one of the things about being a father, coming from another generation, another era than your kid, is that there are things that they do and that they enjoy that you just cannot fathom. I think for all of us, the idea of watching someone else play a video game is just like, okay,
they're mesmerized.
But they love it. They love it, and so I mean, it's very interesting when you have kids and you have these things that you enjoy, and they have these things that they enjoy. You can try to introduce them to the things you enjoy, but at the end of the day, I mean, if you're going to connect with your kid, you have to sort of try to understand.
Let them drive.
Yeah, let them drive and try to understand what they like, and and not judge them for it by your standards.
Right. Well, and we're in such an interesting time with the role that social media plays, and I'm curious because all three of you have children at different ages. We got college, we got high school, we got young kids.
So my kids are in that space where they're watching Ryan's World or
Right.
whatever. First, shout out to Simon, and then shout out to Patrick Scahill's kids too, Liam and Ellie. Great kids. But my kids are at the age where they're watching YouTube videos. And for a while, I didn't allow them to because for journalistic reasons. A lot of those shows obviously aren't curated. So, like,
Right.
We talk about this with like Jim Huddadine or Eric in the office when we're talking about AI, right? It's like, is this content being like curated? Is anybody scrubbing this information or checking it out to see if it's legit? I kind of had that mind until I could no longer enforce it, and I was too tired of arguing with them. But the fun part about it is this world where there's these families that are trying to learn English through having these shows. And we've stumbled upon these YouTube shows like Diana and Roma. It's this Turkish family, and the lead star is this girl, Diana, who's kind of getting used to life in America. It's not really something that's like a tangible kind of storyline, but you could tell that that's kind of what's happening. And then there's Nastia's world with this other family that's like this. And my kids consume this content, and then we have to listen to the music, so I know all the songs, just as we do there. But just my thoughts about the whole YouTube thing is I wish it was something that was curated. Like I tell my kids all the time, the shows that they like, there's this other show called The Tannerites. It involves these families that I'm assuming are really rich and have these sick houses, and they have all these balls, like the ball pits that we used to go into at Burger King when we were kids. Their pool is a ball pit, and I'm like, kids, I just want you to have realistic expectations for what life is, because growing up in the 90s and watching shows, I thought that my life was going to be Saved by the Bell, and I was going to be going to school in California every day and then eating lunch outside.
For my kid, that show was Seven Supergirls, and I cringed every time she turned it on. She wanted to go to a Seven Supergirls convention. I said, absolutely not.
So I got two teenagers, and so they're on TikTok, and it's amazing how that dominates the culture now, and how it bubbles up whatever the trend is, and they're on top of it, way ahead of my wife and I. But what's nice is that they will share some of the videos with us in a family text chat and ongoing thing, and it'll become topics of conversation at dinner. So we're trying to like take the good of it and sprinkle a lot of skepticism on it to kind of remind these kids that, you know, people are putting a certain version of themselves on social media, to not get wrapped up and sucked into that societal pressure that everyone's doing these cool, exciting things all the time. And they think that it's always got to be like that.
Right. Well, and that's what Jonathan was sharing with Simon, is to question whether or not that's real, right? And to give him the reality.
Journalists in us.
But,
exactly.
But during COVID, for example, our son was headset playing video games all the time. And that was the way he was able to socialize with his friends. At that point, he was late elementary school. And so as much as we don't care for video games at home, my wife and I, it was a good social outlet for him. And now that we moved cross country, that is the way he keeps in touch with his friends from Dallas. Several nights a week, he is on his gaming system, talking with his buddies. So there's a nice socialization.
But just quick, that ability to discern is what I don't think we've always had as dads in the past. Is like, you know, it was because of society. It wasn't just because of the men, but it was always, you had to do one thing a certain way and you had to stick with it. You guys and your family, you are discerning. You're like, hey, this is probably better for our son if he gets to play. We do this at home too. It's like, hey, Charlie goes to school from 8 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night. Andy doesn't get a lot of attention from us, so at some point we're just like, you take the iPads and go. You do what you got to do.
Well, and I think I'm seeing a difference here in terms of generational differences, because like Eric, you're mentioning video games, and video games has also evolved since I think we were all kids. Now you can converse with people. For those who are not familiar, is you're connected with people from all over the world. You can have actual conversations, learn about strategies together, things like that. So it's more than just sitting there playing a game, right? Yeah. But I think the important thing here to point out is it sounds like all three of you you are sort of taking the time to understand what your children likes to do. What's the actual video game and what are they getting out from it?
Yeah.
So we all kind of take a step back and sort of peel that a little bit of what was the process like for you in terms of thinking, oh, I actually need to sit down and remind myself that my kids like doing this. Why do they like it? How did you go through that to get to that understanding?
I think talking to your kids and, showing up, going out at the end of the day, you come home from work and you're like, how was your day? What'd you do? And of course, first you say, how was your day? And they say, fine. Good.
You need to do a little bit more digging.
So I want a little bit more. Who'd you talk to? What are you guys into? Hey, did you hear about this and such? And, I have a real back and forth with them. The key is conversation. The key is asking the right questions to elicit proper responses. I don't know if both of you feel the same way. I mean, when in this generation where they're all on TikTok and they're all on these devices, conversation is not as easy, I think, for this generation.
That's true. And I think for us, we try to have some intentional time, like regular old-fashioned family time, sitting at dinner, talking about the world around us today, not just how school went.
Time.
Yeah, like talk about not just how school went for the day, because they're going to say fine, good, whatever. But talk about like, what are you guys talking about at lunch these days? What's the hot gossip at school in terms of who's so but also, like, we have family movie night on Saturday nights, and it keeps us
family
from,
board game night.
Yeah,
yep.
It pulls them away from their devices, which is obviously a constant struggle. The challenge is once one kid has the phone, then pressure spreads among the entire grade about, oh, well, that kid has a phone now,
right.
And it's like, and at first it's like you want your kid to have access to be able to call you in case of an emergency. Although decades ago that wasn't a luxury, you'd have to put a quarter in the payphone and call home, but that's how it starts, and then it's like deciding, okay, what age is appropriate. So I think we were deciding we set on 6th grade is when they could have phones, which is too young, but it's just constantly monitoring like their interaction with the phone and are they being sucked into it, and to know when to put the brakes on and to know when to, like, okay, you're spending too much time on that, let's go do something else, and being really intentional about it, giving them their time to do it, but also knowing when to go back to old-fashioned family gathering stuff.
So I just want to take a quick moment here to share a comment on Twitter from Nate, who shares with us that he said, being a dad in 2025 means wearing a lot of hats. Being a provider, protector, therapist, chef, tech support, and sometimes the human jungle gym. I call my son my best friend, and he knows it. Thanks for a great topic today, especially on Men's Mental Health Month. Well, we appreciate you sharing your story with us, Nate. Thanks for taking the time and doing that. And it sounds like what Nate has shared, I'm seeing some echoes here at the table. You're more than just a dad.
You know what tech support is like in my house? Dad, it won't turn on. Is it plugged in? Oh, okay.
I love hearing that because it sounds like times have not changed for that in particular. But
our
Eric.
son is a genius when it comes to tech support. Like, he can go around diagnosing problems all across the house. So thank you, Matthew.
Shout out to Matthew. You want to talk about mental health, Nathan? I'll give you I'll try to make this quick. As I mentioned earlier, our kids were very young during the pandemic. I had no idea what I was doing as a father. I thought I would know, but I didn't. As Eric said earlier, you don't really know what you're getting into. I had a lot of unresolved things that I should have fixed in my life a long time ago. Just the way that my brain works, it's a very interesting place, a very scary place, as John Henry, Kat, and Eric probably know. But being with the kids being so young and not knowing what to do in that situation, and having a full-time job during the middle of a pandemic and being scared, I'm 270 pounds, so I could drop dead at any minute theoretically. But being worried about my own personal health, my wife's health, my kids' health, there's a lot of things going on during the pandemic, and we just bought a house and moved. So a lot of things were going on, and I was kind of crashing. And I realized that I had an issue that was probably a medical issue. So I went to the doctor. I got prescribed anxiety medicine. A lot of people are so shocked when I talk so openly about my struggles and the need for medication, including my cousins. Some of them laugh at me and say that I shouldn't put anything into my body. But I'm very comfortable talking about it because sometimes we need to do these things. Mm-hmm. I've started taking anxiety medication. And a lot of the things that I saw with issues of growing up in school and not being able to sit still and not being able to learn and having issues with just processing. I've learned that now I also have ADHD, and I was diagnosed with that last year. And through the process of taking these pills, I have now become so much more calmer and so much more attentive and just such a better dad, because a lot is required of what I have to do at the house. Colleen works outside of the regular hours, so I'm caretaking in the morning and in the evening as well, and then doing the full-time job. So I'm able to do all of this because of, first of all, acknowledging my mental health, and then second of all, using aids like pills.
And it's great that we're able to be more open about all that. And during COVID, though, what was really nice, though, was being together. I'm trying to look at the positive things. Like, we watched movies for 40 nights in a row. I helped my kids with their homework. And it was a lot of work and a lot of challenges, but it was that intentional together time. And that, I think, also helped, deepen the bond with parents and children.
You want some?
Do I have a second?
Yeah, give us a second here.
The interesting that you guys talk about medication and things like that. I think that probably we talk about previous generations. I think there was an attitude that, hey, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and so on and so forth. And our daughter suffers from something, and I'm going to mention this, and maybe it'll help somebody out there. My daughter suffers from something called ARFID, and I forget what it stands for. Avoidant restrictive food intake, something or other, where she can, if you bring a plate forever, if you bring a plate of spaghetti to her, but there's like little cloves in there, oh no, those little green things weird me out. But she's worked really hard to get over that. But her mother and I have had to work really hard to really understand it. I think there was one time that when she was about 12, where I sort of peer pressured her, eat that hamburger. There's nothing wrong with that hamburger. Eat it. And she ate it, and she had such a violent reaction to it. And I understood. I said, you know what? I'm the jerk here. Yeah. I'm the jerk. She says, this is not her being obstinate or willful. This is a real thing, and I got to change my ways, and I got to understand this thing, and then work with her where she's at.
Shout out to Isabel.
Isabella, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to all the parents, because there's so much moments of vulnerability, I think, as we have all shared here, and how important it is actually in this case for the parent to take that first step, right? And we got another comment from Theodore, who shared with us on Twitter. He said, I'm a dad to a disabled child with a fatal genetic defect for which there is no cure. The 18-year journey has led me to meet some of the most wonderful people I would have dismissed in my previous life. Wouldn't change a thing. Well, thank you so much, Theodore, for sharing your story with us. And I think alongside everyone, all the stories that we've shared so far, hopefully it resonates with someone out there and to open up conversations between parent and children. And as you all know so far, today we have our dads of Connecticut Public here on Where We Live ahead of Father's Day. We also want to hear from you. Let us know what's the most challenging and rewarding part of being a dad is for you. Give us a call, 888-720-9677, or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. It's Father's Day this weekend, and we're talking about what it means to be a dad today and how modern fathers are navigating everything from diapers to devices with their kids. And we've been having such a blast with our lineup of our Connecticut Public dads here. We got Frankie Graziano, John Henry Smith, and Eric Austin. And we have been talking a lot about our journeys and your relationships with your parents and your children. I think I'm going to go around the table here and ask, this is such a big question, but Eric, what's your favorite moment in fatherhood so far?
I could spend the rest of the show.
I know.
I think we're huge Disney World freaks in our family. We try to go once a year. And so that has become kind of the glue, the social glue that brings our family together. Our son got his first haircut at Disney World. He would run with a camera and start to take pictures, and now he likes to take pictures on his own. Holding my daughter as she watches the Cinderella Castle. So a lot of those moments are my favorite moments. But it's like the moments are what matter, though, because those moments create memories. And those memories, if they're good enough, they last a lifetime.
Right.
And it's the importance of not that everything has to be perfect, but being there, being in the moment, enjoying the moment, and hoping and wondering if your kids will remember that moving forward. I was just texting my daughter a couple days ago, what do you think about me as a father? Any favorite memories to prepare for the show? And she said, yeah, Disney World, a lot of her favorite memories circle around Disney World.
It sounds like this is an ongoing memory that you're still building.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And that's what's beautiful about it. Yeah.
What about you, Frankie?
The first time that they spontaneously tell you that they love you, the first time that they're smart enough to realize that you're full of crap and they call you on it.
I mean, my love language with my dad is basically arguing with him.
Yeah.
And I think he feels weird if I don't.
I remember when I went with Charlie with the whole family to Disney World, but him and I went on the Aerosmith ride, just us, the two of us. That was great. I take Annie to a lot of things, just me and her, and we went to a UConn football game and to the car and back, and it's a long walk. I had her on my shoulders, and I had her on my shoulders during the game, and we had Daddy-Daughter Day. That's what we always say. Those are some of my favorite memories. And I honestly, I always say that we work for the people at Connecticut Public, but I'm starting to get into that mode where I have to anything other than being with my kids and my wife, I have to kind of mentally get up for, because I just have such a great family life, and I'm so privileged. And it's really all I want in this world is just to be with the four of us. I have a great big family. I have so many friends. I'm so blessed. But the only thing I really, the only place I really want to be is with Colleen and Charlie and Annie.
You know, when I think about the moments of triumph, I think of the moments of triumph with my daughter. The times when she succeeds. When she delivers the heck out of that line at the school play, and just you want to run up and down the aisle and be like, yeah, that's right. She did that. And you feel such pride for it. But I would say the other moments of real satisfaction are the time you, as a father, you're always trying to you find teachable moments and drop bits of nuggets that you hope that, okay, is this the nugget that she'll remember when she's 50, and she'll go back to, and you never know if they're listening. And then one day she repeats it back to you, Dad, you either pay a little now or you pay a little later. You're like,
she was listening.
She's picking up. But I think also it's about the moments that are to come that excite me as well. And our daughter is going to senior year. She's thinking about marine biology or something in science. And I'm like, is she going to go down that road? She's also interested in teaching. Our son's interested in being an entrepreneur in business. It's like the fact that as teenagers, they're forming their identity and taking steps to go into the world, and it's helping them build independence, but also resilience to get through what challenges come their way, and that's what's exciting is what's to come as well.
We talked about discipline. Claire's got a flashy new ride, correct?
A 20-year-old car. The car that we actually brought her home in from the hospital is now the car that she's driving.
That's discipline right there.
Yeah.
Full circle moment.
And it's great because it's the independence she's already forming from just little driving around town. And she's going to have a summer job. And it's just nice to see those glimmers of she's becoming her true self.
30 seconds, John Henry.
well, it's just, and I know what you feel from that. My daughter is on. It seems like just yesterday you had to really convince her to like clean a room, and now she does it. Now she's held a job for 3 straight years, and she's moving. She's progressing at that job. She gets great grades in college. So. It's just you talk about whatever struggles you went through as a father. That makes it all worth it, really.
Yeah, and I do want to shout out to my own dad. That thanks for giving me the freedom to explore myself and knowledge and education.
Let you be you.
All of these books here, it's because he read to me as a kid, and I kept that habit as an adult. And just a really quick shout out to Bobby, who shared with us from New York City that the biggest thing his dad taught us was to expand horizons. Took them to museums, libraries, jazz nights. Intentionally raised us in Hartford because he wanted to experience a mixture of kids from different backgrounds. We'll appreciate you taking the time, Bobby. Also appreciate everyone here today. Frankie, John Henry, Eric, appreciate you being on Where We Live today and sharing your stories.
Well, thank you, Kat. Thank you so much.
I'm Catherine Shen. Today's show is produced by Tess Terrible. Our technical producer is Gina Amatruda. Download Where We Live anytime on your favorite podcast app. And thank you all so much for listening and sharing your stories with us today.